Welcome to Chaos to Clarity. I'm meteorologist Bernie Reno. You can follow me on X. I'm formerly known as Twitter. I'm at AccuReno. All right, let's get right to Sara. Tropical storm getting better organized. It's right along the northeast coast of Honduras, right in here. You can see some banding, especially on the northern side. And you're starting to get convection around the center of circulation on the northern side. So this is strengthening. The only thing that's stopping this from rapid intensification is the interaction with Honduras and Nicaragua. Because when you look at the water vapor lobe, I mean, this is in a pocket of moist air. I mean, you know, look at the blue and the green in here. You don't have any dry air during in and around the storm center, and we of course know water temperatures are warm. And you can even see this feathering. You see this moisture feathering off to the north. That means you have low wind shear. Also, look at this. Look at this. Look at the wind flow in here. You see this? You have clockwise rotation because at about 30,000 feet at 200 millibars, you've got an upper high. What does all that mean? Low wind shear. Look at our wind shear product. And again, it is tucked in this low wind shear area, and I do believe that the wind shear is going to continue to lower in this area today and tomorrow. So as long as this stays over near the coast or over the water, it's going to strengthen. Now, if this was up in here, we'd have a big problem. This would probably be strengthening to a hurricane, but it's close enough to the coast, thankfully, that it's stopping development. Now, the real tricky part of this forecast comes on Saturday, because this is when all modeling takes the center of circulation, not all modeling, but most of it, into Nicaragua. And if the center of circulation goes into Nicaragua, that would be game, set, match. Well, not game, set, match. It wouldn't be that, but it would severely weaken Sara, and that would be obviously fantastic news for the state of Florida, because no matter how you slice this, this is coming toward Florida. The question is what is it when it gets there, right? All right, let me show you some modeling here. I want to show you why Saturday morning, Saturday or Saturday afternoon is the key move. That's the fork in the road. This is the American model. This is Friday. What's going to happen here on Friday, you're going to have this dip in the jet stream in here. You see how that's coming south and east? You can see there's a steering flow coming in out of the north on the southwestern side of that dip in the jet stream. So your steering flow is here, but on the southern side, you have a steering flow coming in out of the south. So this is just going to meander around Sara along the Honduran coast Thursday night and into Friday. The question is what happens after that? And I want to show you the American model, then I'll show you the European model. They're very similar. So again, this is the energy associated with Sara. I'll mark it with an X right in there. Watch what it does. Friday morning, Friday afternoon, Friday evening, Saturday morning is right here. This is the key move. Saturday morning, right here, and here's why. So at this point, Sara looks to me still to be along the coast, enough of the circulation offshore that it should maintain its tropical storm status. But see what's going on up here? Look up here. You've got an area of high pressure building here across the central Gulf of Mexico, right in here. Now, because of that, here's the high, and pretty much at the same longitude, here is Sara. And remember, steering flows around high pressure is clockwise, right? So what that's going to do is start driving that to the west. That's what the modeling is doing, and it makes sense given this high. Now, here's the way this could be wrong is that the high is very weak, and the steering flow is very weak. It's not strong enough, and it just kind of meanders around the coast. But you can see what happens here. Let's show it to you. Here we are Saturday morning, Saturday afternoon. There it is. See, right in here. See how it starts going inland? And then watch what happens from 1 o'clock Saturday to 7 o'clock. It's inland. And then you see that? So watch it. Watch it go inland. And it's because that upper high is starting to build, right? And it's pushing it to the west. Now, how could this be wrong? Let's say this. The upper high is weaker, right? The upper high is weak. It has a very low steering flow, and then it doesn't strengthen until it gets over here to Florida, and then you have an east-southeast flow. So instead of it going this way, it hugs the coast and then comes northward. Now, that's a huge difference. If that would happen, then we start getting more and more worried about a storm coming to Florida. If it goes in here, then it becomes a little dicier because this is going to weaken it dramatically. And then you're probably talking of tropical storm, and by the time it comes out into the Gulf of Mexico, it's in a much weakened state. Then we have another thing to worry about, where it goes. Does it go this way or it comes up here? And that is another fork in the road and another forecast conundrum. But watch what happens. Both the GFS and the European are showing that. You see how it just goes inland, and then you start bringing the energy by Monday in here off the Gulf of Mexico. It would be in here. Off Yucatan, it would be in the Gulf of Mexico. More on that in a second. Watch what the European does. Same kind of idea. Same idea. Let's go back. Saturday morning, there it is, right? Your trough is leaving. You're seeing the high start to build here. Now, it's relatively weak here on Saturday, but according to this modeling, it is strong enough to push the energy west. And then you see how it really starts to strengthen as it moves to the southeast. Again, the way this modeling is wrong is that from Saturday to Saturday night, this high is very weak, the steering flow is weak, and instead of going this way, it skirts the coast, then the high strengthens over here, and then goes like this. That's a small but big difference, because if it stays along the coast and takes more of a northerly track and doesn't go into Central America, it's remaining a tropical storm and it could continue to strengthen and then emerges out into the Gulf of Mexico as not a tropical depression, but a tropical storm. And that makes a big difference. So that's a tough call. Now, the reason I'm bringing this up is because when you look at the wind shear in this area, and I'm going to call that up next, when you look at the wind shear in this area, this is Saturday, there is virtually no wind shear in here. There's zero. All the wind shear is over here. And where Sara is going to be, there is no wind shear. So if it stays along the coast over warm water, yes, it would still be limited by the land, but it could continue to strengthen and be a high-end tropical storm as it gets out into the Gulf of Mexico on Monday, because there's the wind shear. You can see it. There's nothing. Now, here's where it gets even more interesting. Where does this go when it gets out into the Gulf of Mexico and how strong it is? Well, even that is a tricky forecast, because one thing I want to show you, let's go back to the wind shear map. So this comes out into here on Monday. As we look at this wind shear, Monday into Tuesday, you see what I see? There's a pocket in this zone, in here, from here to here, of low wind shear. Very low wind shear. So if this system emerges out and stays south, let's say south of Fort Myers, in this zone in here, even if it is weakened, it has the possibility that it can gain some intensity and impact Florida as a tropical storm. Would it be a strong tropical storm? Probably not, if it's a much weakened state. But you can see that you've got an area here, if this energy stays south, that it could strengthen and be a tropical storm at landfall. Now, conversely, where do we have the wind shear, the strong winds aloft? As you look at this product on Monday and Tuesday, the strong wind shear is up in here, right? And if this system were to go farther north, it would get sheared apart, and it wouldn't be anything more than an open wave or a tropical rainstorm. It may not even be a tropical depression. Now, there'd still be some heavy rain, no doubt about that. But see, that's where things get complicated. All right, where does this go over the weekend? If it drives west and it's a tropical depression, okay, it's a tropical depression as it comes out into the Gulf of Mexico. And then you have to worry about, okay, where's it going? And there is differencing on the modeling on where this goes. Let me show you the differencing here. I want to show you the American model. We'll take this full. Here's the American model. The American model takes this where? Farther north, right? Into this stronger wind shear in here. That would just rip it apart. There wouldn't be anything left. Now, there would still be some heavy rain in Florida, but that would absolutely rip this thing apart as we get in the Monday and Tuesday. That's the American model. All right? Let me show you what the European does. This is, again, Sunday, Monday. Watch it come out, watch it come out, watch it come out. Here we go, Monday. So where's the energy? This is the European model. It's right in here. This is where I see it in here. And watch where it takes it. It takes it not north, but due east. And you see what starts happening? You start seeing more colors in here. Because what happens is this keeps it south. Yes, in a weakened state, no doubt about it. But it stays south of the wind shear, right? Again, let me go back to it. Go back to the wind shear product in there. See the wind shear? Look, there's not much wind shear in there, right? And then you start seeing the red showing up at the last second. You see that? Right in here. Why? Because it stays in this ribbon of lower wind shear that it tries to get its act together as it approaches Florida as we head into Wednesday afternoon. So that's what we're dealing with right now. And I hope I'm giving a lot of this and that and the other thing, but there are forks in the road here. The first fork in the road is Saturday. Does this go into Central America? If it does, it's going to weaken. It'll be a tropical depression as it comes out into the Gulf of Mexico. And if that's the case, even if it stays south, it will have a hard time being more than a low-end tropical storm as it approaches Florida. If it stays farther north and it comes out into the Gulf of Mexico as a tropical storm and remains south like the European has, but it's a tropical storm as it emerges, then we're looking at a high-end tropical storm, and you couldn't even rule out a hurricane coming toward Florida on Wednesday. That's a possibility if, again, it keeps that track. It doesn't go into Honduras. It stays north, then comes into Florida. Right now, the preponderance of evidence suggests this. And I'll show you the AccuWeather iPath here. The preponderance of evidence that we see is, let me show this to you here, is this. That this does come, and we're in the middle. We have it like this. Tropical depression, and then maybe a tropical storm here at landfall. But I'm telling you right now, if this does this, it'll come across here, it'll come out as a tropical depression, and then it will have a very hard time getting to much more than a low-end tropical storm as it approaches Florida. And again, there is a possibility, notice this window, if it comes farther north, no matter what strength it is, even if it's a tropical storm here, if it goes farther north, it's going to get shredded. There won't be any landfalling storm in Florida that far north. I don't believe it. If you have a landfalling storm in Florida, it has to be south of Tampa from Fort Myers on south, because any system that goes farther north into this area will get sheared apart. Yes, it will be helped from this dip in the jet stream coming across the area. Very true. But if it gets that far north, I think there's too much wind shear and it gets ripped apart. So here's the AccuWeather iPath, calling for this to weaken to a tropical depression and then approach Florida as a tropical storm. I want to stress, though, it could be a tropical storm or even just a tropical depression, or it could be a rainstorm. I mean, right now, odds favor this being a weaker system than a stronger system coming into Florida. I have to tell you that. But there are still some forks in the road here that makes me nervous. Again, if this goes into here, it'll be a tropical depression. And if it stays south, it still has an opportunity to strengthen, but it would be a weak tropical storm. But if it takes this track like this, it could be a tropical storm and then stay south. Then we have a strengthening storm heading toward Florida. So my message to Florida is this. Pay attention to this. Do not sleep on this. You're going to hear a lot of people saying Florida is not in play. I hope it's not. I wouldn't say that yet. We have to see what this does Saturday. Then we have to take a look at what's left of it as it moves out into the Gulf of Mexico on Monday. Then, if it goes north, it gets shredded apart. Shouldn't be anything more than a tropical rainstorm. But if it stays south toward Fort Myers on south, then you have a problem with lower wind shear, and this could organize. So there's a lot of time left with this system. I hope that makes sense. Again, this is kind of like in the middle of what can happen. Right now, we're going to keep this as a tropical storm approaching Florida Wednesday afternoon. This could be a tropical depression. It could be weaker. At this point, I don't see any evidence of this being a hurricane. Can't rule it out, but that's not the evidence I see right now, because I'm worried that this is going to go across Nicaragua, be in a very weakened state. And even if it stays in this southern area, it will take time to reorganize. And I don't think it would have enough time to be a hurricane. Tropical storm, yes. If, no matter what it is, whether it's a tropical storm or a depression here, and if this goes north toward North Florida, north of Tampa, I think it gets sheared apart. Now, regardless, there's going to be a heavy rain threat in Florida, no doubt about that. That will be a heavy rain threat in Florida, so you have to be on the lookout for that Wednesday afternoon and Wednesday evening. It's complicated. I hope I explained it well enough for everybody. If you have any questions, you can contact me on X, formerly Twitter. I'm at AccuReno.